On this episode of Ask an Artist, I'm joined by Niko Pueringer of Corridor Digital. Niko and his team have done a really great job over the years of providing some educational VFX content, filmmaking tips, but also pulling back the curtain on some specific visual effects. In our discussion, we'll cover things like the art of telling a story, as well as getting into the history of Corridor Digital and how him and Sam got started. You can find links to everything discussed in this episode in the show notes below or at actionvfx.com/podcast. This was a really fun talk, so let's go ahead and just dive right into this episode. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Ask an Artist. I'm very excited about this one. It's going to be a really fun episode. I have Niko Pueringer from Corridor Digital. What's up, Niko?
Hey, what's up, Luke, and everybody else listening?
Yeah, super excited to have you on the podcast. I know it's been a while since we've been able to catch up, so I'm looking forward to chatting today.
Sweet. Yeah, me too. It's going to be a good time.
Nice. All right. So let's kind of just jump right in. I know every episode we have of Ask an Artist, Niko is really question-centric. And so we're wanting to ask kind of one single question and then from that kind of unpack some different, just different thoughts or anything that kind of flows out of that. So your question for today is going to be, how do you balance content creation and growing as an artist? I know you guys always have your hands in a ton of different pots at the same time, and I can imagine balancing all of that would be, pretty intense. A lot of different projects, different due dates, deadlines, but kind of how do you manage that with the more personal desire to continue to grow in your career and just kind of like staying creative with those high demands of all sorts of different productions?
Yeah, for sure. So that challenge is kind of, it sits in a family of a whole host of challenges that you face as an artist who's actually trying to make a living as an artist, because there's a whole aspect of, you're monetizing your creativity. What happens if you don't feel creative, right? You have the aspect of, does your creativity align with what people desire and want to get? If you're like really into making paintings with poop, like you might not sell a lot of paintings. So, you have to, there's that balance there too. But, all that factors in to, I think, this question, but to focus specifically on what you're saying, so I guess when I answer your question, it's going to sound like it's a little bit in a void, but in real life, it's not. When it comes to balancing what you have to get out there and what you have to make combined with, trying to explore and be creative and, do things as an artist, it's going to be different for every different person. It's going to depend a little bit on your discipline as an artist, and it's going to depend a bit on what your creative output is. So, to speak specifically to myself, when we started doing the stuff we did on YouTube, we were doing that because we enjoyed doing visual effects. We had kind of cracked the code a little bit of doing cool looking visual effects in the world of amateur digital video that really people hadn't quite started yet. And all this stuff was relatively simple. It's just there wasn't an easy way to learn it aside from just spending years and years doing it and trying to get into the communities of people that were also doing the same thing. So at the very beginning, it was us just wanting to make stuff finally and going out and making stuff. So there wasn't this dichotomy of get the content out there but then grow as an artist at the same time. It was just us doing it. But after doing that for a year or two, then you start to feel like, okay, so I have been doing it. What's the next step here? And we are our own bosses. I guess I should say the audience is our boss, which is, I guess, a decent boss to have. But to an extent, we are our own bosses too. And so we've always tried to listen to our guts a little bit. It's, if you're making something and you're not really feeling it, if you got a deadline in a week, push through and get it done in a week. But if you're looking at the same thing for the next 6 months and you're not feeling it, well, then it's time to change something and fix something. So, with that in mind, we try to not overthink it and just kind of listen to our emotions a little bit. And if we're feeling like we need to back off of something and we need to take some time to do something else, we try to just do that. It's going to come at a loss of income, and you need to be comfortable with that, not just as an artist, but as a human being, with going, okay, money isn't everything. There was a point in time when, because we're doing YouTube, we can make our own schedules, so sometimes we work on the weekends and sometimes we take the days of the week off, we could do whatever we want to as long as we're getting work done on the time that it had to get done by. And So it's like, well, maybe today let's go out to the beach. Nobody's going to be at the beach today, so let's go out to the beach and work on Saturday instead. When that's when everybody else will go to the beach.
Nice.
And so you'd hit up a friend, and they'd be like, oh, I can't take that day off. I got to work. And it's like, well, don't you have vacation days? It's like, I do have vacation days, but that to take the day off would mean I would lose $200, or $300 or whatever, whatever they're making doing their job. And I found that to be a very dangerous mentality that, I mean, it's true, there's opportunity costs, and you need to factor that as a businessman, but to think that by you not working, you are losing money is, I think, the wrong mentality to have. When you're not working, you're not making money, but you're not losing money. So it's like, you can't think that, like, every hour you're not working, you're losing money. It's going to tear you apart. Like, so every hour that you're, go home in the evening, you're losing money. Every hour that you're sleeping, you're losing money. Like, no, that's an awful way to think, and you're going to be super stressed out. You're not making money per se. It's like, once you get to your job and you clock in, okay, cool, now you're making money. But, you're neutral when you're not making money. So
that's a great perspective. Like, I think, because I've never even stopped to, like, look at it that way. Like, I think that's a much healthier version of, especially when things are project based. As you said, it's like, I need to get this out the door or move it along. But like, that's really good. Yeah.
And then, obviously you have to cover your rent, you have to cover your food, cover some of the experiences you want to have or the things you want to get. Once you've done that, and, obviously you're ideally saving for retirement a little bit too. I think a lot of people forget that aspect. It's important to save. Yeah. It's important to save some money because at a certain point, you might not be able to make money for a while because you might be old.
Yeah. Especially with families and stuff too. Like, as that kind of season transitions, like, what does that look like? Am I putting my family in a good position if I were to be in an accident or something?
Exactly.
But like, those are all, I think, mature, healthy, responsible things of trying to balance that out.
Yeah, if you're 22 years old, you probably won't have all those bases covered. But, life goes on whether you want to or not. And once you're 25, 26, 30, 35, like, okay, so you got some years under your belt now. You've been making money for a while in your job. Ideally, you've started to build some of these things up. So, these aren't things to super stress about when you're like 21 years old or 22 years old getting started in the biz. But where I'm going with that is that, when you're hitting about $60,000 to $70,000 a year in your income, which is, okay, you're making a decent yearly salary or whatever. Yeah. Usually by that point, you're starting to cover your essentials. Okay, your rent's taken care of, your food's taken care of. You have some extra money to go to a restaurant once in a while or buy your video games or whatever, whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to make more money than that and you want to start dedicating extra time or extra effort, energy, strategy, etc., that's when it's important to ask yourself, like, okay, what am I going to give up for that? What am I going to sacrifice for that? Because if you're an artist and let's say you've worked 6 months of the year just cranking out jobs, right? You've done client work, you've done ad work, commercial work, etc. You're like, okay, I'm really starting to feel burnt out. You could keep making money, but if your essentials are covered, how much is it worth it to you to then stop that and just do the things that you're passionate about? You'll spend money to go to a restaurant, you'll spend money to go to a theme park. Will you spend money to just make a goofy, fun project that you're into? Or rather, will you just simply not make money, because you're not losing money per se, but will you just simply not make money to do these things? And being comfortable with that and being okay with sacrificing some of your income to acknowledge that these other things in your life, I think, is super important. And it's true, money does not buy happiness. It does buy happiness to a certain point. Like, obviously, if you can't eat food and you need to afford food, money will buy you happiness. But once you get past that step, which most people do, honestly, money won't buy you happiness. You have to acknowledge that, and you have to be comfortable with that, and make that kind of psychological shift to be like, okay, I'm okay not making money to do this other thing I'm going to be passionate about. And in time, like, you'll finish that project, like, cool, that was fun. I'm glad I did that, because, like I said, time always marches forward, and it's like, well, I guess I'll go back to doing some commercial gigs, and you'll have that little bit of extra fulfillment in you. So you just got to be able to go back and forth. You got to feel it out when it's necessary for you to do so, and you have to be comfortable accepting the fact that your income stream might go down. You won't be making as much money if you do that, but at a certain point in your life, you'll realize that that's okay, and it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. Because if you can eat food and you got a roof over your head, that's it. You're going to get you're going to derive almost all of your joy from the people that are around you and the things that you are doing. It's nice to have an Apple Watch, cool, but whatever. Like, this is not making me happy. It's like, what's making me happy is hanging out with my friends or actually doing the things I want to do. And a lot of those things don't cost money, so you just got to be okay to let that stuff go and get those passions rekindled.
Yeah, man, that is a lot of wise, just good wisdom in there. So
I've had to think a lot
on
about it because, you know, in an industry where you have to be creative all the time, and you have to be passionate about the stuff you're doing all the time, you gotta protect that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you're burnt out, like, and he's like, cool, make an inspiring video. It's like, I can't do that. So you gotta really be careful with that stuff.
Nice. So kind of in the, you know, different projects that you guys have, do you find that the range of those differences like kind of help you stay creative and not necessarily get burnt out as far as like doing one specific role, whether that's directing each single thing that comes across your desk? Or I would imagine the differences kind of help out.
Yeah.
Because I know
definitely
I have a big tendency with new technology, new tools. All I want to do is like rip it apart and see what it does, and like what the applications are. So I can imagine that kind of has that same thing as well.
I mean, they say variety is the spice of life, you know? But it's funny, like, there's people too, like, that will, I mean, both Sam and I will hit this once in a while. It's like we've done a lot of variety. It's like, okay, I really want to just focus on one thing for a little while. Yeah. And I think that's just, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And so it's good to, like, just stop and appreciate what you have, no matter what you have. I mean, just living in America, even if you're at the poverty income level, if you're living in America, you're still, like, in the 1%, you know, from a global perspective. So perspective always matters, and like I said, you know, it's always, you'll always feel like there's more somewhere else. That's just the human condition, and so it's really important to stop and take, you know, stock of your surroundings. Be grateful for the things that you have that are good. You know, it's like every day, just pause and be like, what am I happy about today? Like, what am I thankful I got to do today? You know, was it sunny out? Was it good weather, or did I have a good phone conversation with an old friend? You know, it's like, it can be small things, like, am I happy that I got some good sleep last night? You know, it's like, it doesn't matter, but like, just pause and think about the things that you actually have that are good and worth having, because it really helps to kind of shift your perspective on things. People tend to think about the things they don't have. They tend to think about the things they need and they want and that they're going to pursue. Because once you have something, it's like, okay, cool, you just check it off the list and you forget about it, which can be a little dangerous.
Exactly.
But you know, being able to sorry, not to run you over here, just to finish it up, but being able to have the variety can be really nice. And if you're somebody that likes variety and likes doing new things, just pause and think about how can you turn that into a productive thing. Like you were saying, if, you know, when new software comes out and you want to tear it apart and get in there, and new software is coming out all the time, and so sometimes it feels like all you're doing is exploring new software. You're never actually just pausing and making something with it. But if that's what you like doing, you have to stop and think about, like, well, how can I actually make this exploration of new software a productive thing if I want to do this all the time? You know, do I start a YouTube series about exploring new software when it comes out, and, like, you know, then just I get to take my passions and actually make something productive out of it. You know, that's always a good thing to ask yourself. But variety is nice, but you can even find variety in one project, because every day is different. You just have to be able to acknowledge those things mentally, and then, you know, enjoy them as you do them.
Definitely. My wife and I, over the past 10 years or so, have had the opportunity to visit like quite a few other countries outside the U.S., and that has, in and of itself, has been a huge perspective.
Oh yeah,
just
traveling is huge. Everybody should try to travel a little bit, because you learn a lot about what it is to be human from traveling. Yep,
for sure. And just like, I mean, you even mentioned like, what is necessity? What is joy? What are the things that are fulfilling me? And just how like wrong that perspective is so often, because we get back and then it's like, wow, I just feel terrible. Not because, you know, I did anything, but because I was blinded, but now I have such a wider perspective of, just life. How you mentioned the human condition, like that can play in our benefit of trying to always push the boundaries, but a lot of times that's a very, very unhealthy way of like, this isn't enough. I need more to feed the tank. Which,
definitely in the world of really social media too. You feel that pressure all the time.
The Instagram life of, what a perfect photo. It's like, I think we're getting to the point where most average normal people recognize that, you know, it's like, that's really not someone's life. You know, it's like 5 or 10 years ago, that was like, I don't know, maybe that's pretty great. So I think it's helped to kind of see a little more into, people are real. And the more authentic people are, like, I find that's who I'm naturally gravitating towards anyway in daily conversations. Like people that are willing to open up and say, no, like today was really bad, but like, how can we make tomorrow better? I think that's always the most important type of conversation.
Definitely. 100%.
Nice. So I want to talk a little bit about like origin story.
Okay.
So you and Sam obviously go way back. I started watching your videos quite a long time ago. I think the first one that I saw was maybe like the Angry Birds in real life stuff. So I think it was utilizing, I think it was 3ds Max or 3ds something.
Max
and at the time, that was the only content on YouTube, which you kind of alluded to earlier, that was like, oh my gosh, like you're pulling the curtain back and I can actually see someone that's doing this for real. And I think that really propelled a lot of that. And a lot of like your early channel stuff is a testament to like why I'm even interested in visual effects today. A lot of influence, in Action VFX, just being able to have that early on exposure. So huge props and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Much after the fact.
Well, thank you so much.
So as far as like you and Sam, connecting early on, did you like live in the same area? How did you guys meet?
Well, so Sam's mom and my mom knew each other before Sam and I knew each other. But like, we actually met when we were super young, but we didn't become friends initially. Like, I think we met when we were like 9 years old or something like that. But like, whatever. It's like some neighborhood thing. And it wasn't until I think we were like 13 years old that we like reconnected again. And by then our interests started to develop a little bit more. We weren't just like, do you like dinosaurs? Like, we were beyond that. It was now like, hey, I got a Nintendo 64. I'm into video games. Like, that's cool. I've just got a PC and I'm playing Quake 3. It's like, whoa, so now you actually had some interest.
But we still like dinosaurs.
We still like dinosaurs, but now at least we can like put guns on them and shoot them in a video game.
Precisely.
Yeah. So like, we actually started having our own interests that were a little bit more developed. And I think it was, it was just acknowledging in each other almost instantly like that you're into the same stuff I'm into. Because, now everybody's a geek and everybody's a nerd, right? And that's great, but...
Yeah. Because it's okay now.
It's okay now. And, computers are pervasive, right? Everybody's got a computer in their pocket. Like, if you showed up to school in 8th grade with an Apple Newton or whatever it was, the first, PD, what is it called? Like the PDA or something like that, personal digital assistant. Like, you were a huge nerd and people made fun of you. I remember a guy named Adam Beer.
Probably beat you up.
Who showed up in my school with a PDA and like, he was a little bit of a nerd, but like we were in the nerd group and it was cool. At least I thought it was cool. Yeah. Now everybody's got a phone in their pocket and no one thinks you're a nerd for carrying around basically a PDA in your pocket, right? So... where am I going with that? Okay, so I recognized in Sam immediately
origin stories.
that he was, he was kind of into that stuff and I was into that stuff. And there's also like, when you're on the frontier of something and there's not a lot of people around you that are in that frontier, there's a bit of a hint of like this feeling of like, okay, we might be onto something here. Like this could be something interesting down the line. Like now obviously computers are pervasive, so I don't, what are the new frontiers? It's kind of up to you and your life experiences to tell you that. But, so we had this acknowledgement that we're like, okay, we're into this stuff. And it coincided with a little bit too with realizing that there's a bit of a technological revolution going on with these passions that we were into. So there's a class in my school called ICS, Independent Computer Study, and basically it was about an hour to an hour and a half each day as one of the classes you take. And literally it was independent computer study. You got to just do independent projects in this kind of like little computer lab. And so it was perfect for like kind of self-driven geeks like me and Sam are like, oh, I want to learn how to do 3D modeling. Cool. There's the sci-fi3d.net. You can download X-Wing models, 3D, and animate them. Cool. I'm going to make a Star Wars movie. So, that's what we did.
That's so cool.
And we kind of had this, shared ambition, but we also had a bit of the technical know-how to pull it off. And then Sam's parents were actually kind of some, forerunners in like the digital media frontier. His mom had a tech news show that she ran that was online, and this is back in like 99, 2000. So it's like, this is not like a normal thing to run like a news show online back then. His dad was doing a lot of digital art and motion graphics and stuff like that.
That is super cool.
Yeah, so like they had given Sam a lot of access to this stuff, and in turn, like that kind of gave me access to this stuff as well. And Sam and I had this shared passion. We pursued it, and likewise, my mom, really helped pursue these things too with me. She kind of tried to make sure we had a nice computer that I could use at the house for these kind of things. And then she would also help enable the stuff on the academic side, and kind of make sure like I could get into things like that, the ICS program to pursue this stuff. And then we had a really good school system and we had really good teachers that kind of pursued that. So in ICS, like the first like the first digital cameras are coming out. The first iMovie came out. The first IMAX came out. The first Final Cut Pro. Like that all happened when I was like in 8th grade, 7th, 8th, 9th grade.
Yeah.
And like both the school providing this, but also myself and Sam and the other kids that were in ICS like recognizing like, whoa, this is a big deal. Like one of the very first DVD burners like was at our school that, you know, Apple put out. And it's like, I can burn a DVD. Like most people in the world can't burn a DVD. Like I can use a nonlinear editor. Like this is brand new technology that previously you had to have like $100,000 machines in like San Francisco to use. And so it was really exciting. We recognized like I can make movies now, and previously no one else could. And currently, really no one else can either. They just don't know that it's out there in iMovie. You know, it's like, here's a free program that lets you make movies. And like, what the heck, people? Why are you all sitting around not making movies?
Yeah.
This is a big deal.
I know. Complaining about the fact that they can't make movies.
Right. So, you know, that was really big for us. And then Sam and I were also just, you know, huge movie fans. So it was like a combination of like the shared interest, the right environment. You know, it's like, it's a soup, right? And we were like, there's a bunch of ingredients in the soup that were ready for us to jump in and like, you know, eat that soup. So there's always like people out there that are into this kind of stuff. It's, you just need to provide like the opportunity and like the environment to make it happen. So that's really kind of how we connected. And then there was like this, I guess it wasn't really like, I guess it was almost like this unspoken idea that like, hey, this is kind of a big deal. And if we both kind of commit to it and pursue it, we could go somewhere with this. And like, we didn't really say that out loud. We just kind of kept doing our things. And like, we're passionate about these projects, and our friends were into them too. And like, and that kind of grew and grew and grew from there. And definitely like,
that's so cool.
Yeah. As we got out and experienced the world more, like went to school, like college and that kind of stuff, we kind of realized how special that initial like jump was, you know, that beginning that sprint and our jump out of the gate. We had like one of the best starts we possibly could. And it's like, whoa, this is actually kind of a big deal. There's lots of people everywhere that are trying to figure this out. And we're about 2 years, 3 years ahead of them. And that's when we kind of like redoubled our efforts. And once again, like in the middle of all this was this sense of independent creative, you know, I guess, creatorship, I guess, where we were making this stuff that we thought was cool and other people thought it was cool. And that was super rewarding. And that's when you realize like there's an artist side to it. You know, there's you're going out, you're making art, and people are having emotional reactions to the stuff you're creating. And that's, at the end of the day, that's, you know, that's the most fulfilling thing. That's the thing that drives, it's driven humans for, you know, centuries, thousands of years, millennia. You know, it's whether you're sculpting a statue or painting this, you know, the ceiling of a cathedral, or you're making videos with you and your friends shooting machine guns. Like, if it gives people emotional reactions, it speaks to something that's like, you know, core to the human experience, regardless of the technology you're using. So this is just another way for us to make art and have people notice it. And here we are still doing it.
A lot of that goes back to just like the art of storytelling. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter what it is, everything that we're experiencing, whether it's a 15-second commercial or a long format feature film, like it's all about the story. So big respect for that.
Thank you.
Was there ever a moment when, you know, you and Sam are just doing your thing, obviously grinding it out, doubling your efforts? Was there ever like a specific time that just stands out as being like, hey, we might actually have something here? Or like, maybe it was like the success of a specific video, or
I mean, there's lots of them. Honestly, there's so many of them that they kind of feel normal now, like they don't stand out necessarily. But I mean, the biggest one was when like one of the first ones, I mean, I can go all the way back to like junior high school when we like started putting our first like, you know, our first videos together, and like people started noticing, and like that stood out to us, you know. And you can push it further to, you know, into college when, you know, we start doing some like higher level 3D animation stuff, and like we can figure out how to make renders look photoreal, like when the very kind of early technologies of that were coming out. And like that wasn't even like other people didn't really notice. That was just like a personal thing. We're like, whoa, this is a big deal. And then to take it even further, towards the end of school, my buddy Eric Lim had been kind of like writing and producing this sci-fi action series called Greenside that I was basically helping direct, and Sam jumped onto that to help as well. And we made a trailer for that, and that went a little viral. And back then, going viral was like getting 20,000 views.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. I mean, those are huge. Like, it's very authentic, like people seeking it out kind of virality, as opposed to like just.
And they're watching the entire thing. It's not like they're just showing up for a second.
It's not like there's a website that, you know, has a front page that lots of people go to and just puts it on there and like, oh, it's viral. It's like, no, this is people going to like, you know, I don't remember what URL, greenside.com, and like, hey, like we are actually, like, suddenly we got a huge spike in traffic because like people are naturally going here.
That's so cool.
That was a big deal. And then we got noticed by, a small production company out here in LA that hired us to do a monster movie. So it's like, that was a big deal. And like, and you can take it further to like our first YouTube video, which is the Modern Warfare Frozen Crossing, like Call of Duty fan film thing that we made that was on Freddy's channel back then. And that going viral and hitting the #1 slot on Reddit back then. That was a huge deal. Like having friends who were like, whoa, I was on Reddit and your video was #1. That's crazy. It's like, sick.
I've been telling you this for years.
That was a huge deal. And then like our Minecraft video going viral and getting 13 million views was a huge deal. Like, so there's too many of them to count, because like in the world of the internet, especially if you're trying to like play the viral game, like things pop off. And even around us, like, Freddie and Brandon, like the Freddie W channel, I think was, for a moment, is like the 4th most subscribed channel on YouTube, which is a really big deal. Like it was back then, so it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. And they, they obviously didn't pursue it the same way, like that a lot of other #1 channels kind of kept their momentum up. But like, that's not a small thing to sneeze at. Like, you are on the precipice of history right there,
Yep.
So I think just also acknowledging that like, hey, we're getting opportunities here that, few people in the world get ever.
Yeah.
Like, we got to buckle down and we got to make this like work. We got to pursue this hard. And it's easy to have that turn into like, oh, we got to make millions of dollars. Like, and that's not how we pursued it. It was more like, we can take our creative output here and not only make this our living, but find an audience who's passionate about it, get them to discover our work, because getting people to discover your stuff is so hard. And because there's a lot of people out there that like your stuff, it's just how do they find it? And then like, once you have that discovery done, like, cool, now you're set. And it's like, we pursued it as hard as we could. We tried to make it happen as much as we could. We pulled a lot of all-nighters to get our videos out, because at least we knew that for the first 2 years there, like when we were starting a YouTube channel, like, if it's working, make it as fast as you can. Make as much stuff as fast as you can and get it out there. We're 24 years old, 25 years old. We don't need to sleep. Just go out there and make videos, man. Like, we can sleep when we're 30, which we still pulled all-nighters then once in a while, but, whatever. But I can get some sleep now, so that's good.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that it's been really evident, like, outside looking in, as far as how you guys have cared about your community as it's grown and as it's scaled. And even like with, your green light setup now of like being able to involve people in the process of, hey, these are the things we're thinking about making, having cool little trailers and like descriptions, but then really connecting that piece of your community, visual effects community, audience. I would imagine there's some overlap with not specifically artists, but people that just enjoy entertaining content, and allowing them to play that producer role and help you. But that also gives buy-in all around, because they feel so much more involved, because it's like, hey, I voted and I put effort into this thing and now it's being made, similar to like, on Kickstarter or any other big platform. There's just like this other level of like community acknowledgement and involvement, and I almost feel like it's just respect. It's like, hey, we're all working towards this thing, we're all making it the best that it can be, and when you're able to like crowdfund or have the community be a part of that, I think that makes it really special.
It's huge,
and you guys have you've done that very well.
Thank you.
The years.
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed to have like a very, very supportive audience, and a big audience too. The studio system is so messed up. I mean, I know that's cliche to say that, and like, how do you mean? It's like, I'm not talking about like abusive or anything like that. I'm just talking about, in terms of prioritizing making art and making cool things that you want to see. The studio system does not provide that. They provide a product, usually a lowest common denominator product. It's kind of like the same way we put up with a lot of bullshit on our phones to like get what we want. And we're like, ugh. It's like, I'll wade through all this crap. It's the same thing with movies. It's like, there's a lot of movies that could be better movies if they were a little less focused on making money and a little more focused on being a good movie. And there are, obviously there's those great movies that come out too. But like the whole world of the business side of making films these days, because it is a commodity that makes billions of dollars, like that really warps and messes with the experience. It's hard to be a creator in that space and feel fulfilled and not stressed while you're doing it, let alone the pressures of like, millions of people are watching, you gotta commit. It's like, do I?
And if you blow it, it's like you'll never get funding to make another thing.
Yeah.
And so it's always this weird. Yeah, like I have a ton of respect for John Krasinski, just for like the whole A Quiet Place 2, being able to hold it. I don't know if you saw it in theaters, but being able to hold it for that experience, man, that was just coming out of the pandemic and everything, waiting for people to be together, be in the same, like I haven't quite had that type of theater experience in a long time. Of just everyone in the theater, because there's a lot of like quiet scenes obviously, but you can hear the anticipation and people around you just like trying to be quiet because this monster's like sneaking around and the main character can't hear it, and there's just something super special about that as well when it comes to appreciating a director that says, hey, I know this is kind of the lay of the land. Obviously the studio wants to push it out so they can start seeing return on investment as quick as possible, but being able to stand in that gap I think is really admirable. And hopefully that'll kind of like pave the way for a lot more people to see, hey, people are trying, they're okay with trying different content that has different hero story arcs or anything else. I was speaking with a couple friends that work for Netflix, and they were talking about how last year everyone burnt through every piece of content that already existed because everyone's home. And so they've been able to have more freedom to experiment with new animation styles or new scripts that they otherwise wouldn't have pre-pandemic, because it's like, hey, this is what works. These are the things that we know we can make money. But yeah, I totally agree. It's this weird thing. And anytime I, see a larger production company or wherever, I'm always surprised at the amount of non-film people have so much say, or like not even like project management. It's like they're so detached from actual production and shots being worked on the box or wherever else, that is like, I definitely get that you have to make money. Otherwise you can't do it. But I agree that pendulum swings way too far in a specific way. What can be challenging to actually do things that you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing too is like, the more money you put onto a project, the more strings are attached to the project, the less you can fail, right? And I think there's a swing going the other way in a lot of other, facets of media, where things don't have to be expensive anymore. And I think the audiences are very forgiving about that if the stories are good and the personalities are good, the messages are good. And that's a thing that like we're trying to kind of pursue a little bit more here with the help of our audience, on YouTube and on our website, quarterdigital.com. There's my plug. If you're into what I'm talking about here, go check it out.
Plug it away.
That website and our supporters on the website and our audience on YouTube, it's giving us the ability to go out and do projects that aren't big budget projects, but they're free projects. Like, not free as in like it doesn't cost money, but free as in like there's freedom. And we're realizing that like, look, just write a fun story, have fun with it, and just do it. Who cares? You don't need to shoot it on an Alexa. It doesn't need to be the best thing in the world. And this is going to sound weird from a visual effects centered channel, but like your visual effects don't have to be good. They just need to communicate the story. And there's this like, and I think there's this sense of, especially in like bigger media, like everything needs to be expensive and needs to look nice. You need to hire the best. And it's like, that's cool when that happens and it works out. But I think for a lot of these things, you're like, don't worry about that. Just make something fun. Like, go tell stories. Like, people spend more time on TikTok than they do in the movie theater. So screw the $1 billion budgets, man. Just just go have fun and make stuff. That's what we're hoping to accomplish this year with things like with Local Zero, which is this really cool story that like I think is kind of capitalizing on a lot of like the video game centric stuff we've made in the past. And that's the thing that's funded through the website. We're doing it with Son of a Dungeon, which is this like Dungeons and Dragons playthrough game that we did. Sam's a great dungeon master. We learned a lot about storytelling from Dungeons and Dragons. And then with Son of a Dungeon, we're kind of applying some of these like, I guess, experiments in visual effects and like how we can streamline doing things like shooting in a virtual environment and being on a green screen and combining that with Dungeons and Dragons in this game to like let that be the catalyst to make all this happen. And once again, it's not about it being super expensive. It's not about hiring 20 artists to like pump out assets for you. It's really just more about just being creative and trying a cool idea and getting it out there. So Right now we're
That's
super
awesome.
passionate
Yeah.
about it, and that's what I want to be doing. So yeah.
Yeah. Selfish question. Are you guys using Camtrack AR for a lot of
We
that?
were using Camtrack AR up until very recently when Unreal Engine 5 came out. What we did with Son of a Dungeon is we built these huge, elaborate, I guess, Dungeons and Dragons tabletops using Dwarven Forge miniatures. Dwarven Forge makes like the best like Dungeons and Dragons like pieces. They're all
That's
painted, high detail and whatnot. And so Sam was like, what if we just built these tables and then photo scanned them? And then we have the same, we literally replicate the table in 3D instantly. You don't have to model it or anything. It's just you literally photo scan it and there you have it. It's like, okay. And so then like the plan was to play the game and then go back and recreate moments from the playthrough with us as characters dressed up in our costumes. And then film it on a green screen with Camtrack AR. Because once again, it's all about using technology. This has been the thing on Corridor forever. It's all about using technology to do what used to be hard and make it easy, right? So Camtrack AR, you can get you can get your 3D tracked camera instantly when you film your footage with your phone, which is awesome. So you're filming with your phone. It's not a red. Big deal. Who cares? Like, the internet does not give a crap about your video quality, right? They just want to be able to see the story and see you guys walking around in your world. That's, all virtual. So that was the plan initially, is to use Camtrack AR, film it on green screen, like instant tracking, instant process or dropping us in the green screen. It's like, you can edit Premiere, send it to After Effects instantly, send it from After Effects to Cinema 4D instantly, dropping your Camtrack AR, boom, you're in the shot, right? So it's all about being instant. It wasn't about being perfect. It's just about being instant and getting it out there. So then Unreal Engine 5 came out, and we're like, wait a minute, can we just drop in these photo scans in their just native polygonal resolution and it'll work? And we did, and it worked. And it's like, whoa, this is different. We're dropping in 20 million polygon, models into this scene, and it runs at like 60 frames a second. And so then Sam was like, okay, I need to shift gears a little bit here. What if I just set up a Vive tracked camera system? So put a Vive tracker on a regular camera, and then we film this thing on a green screen, but in Unreal Engine, we can pull a key in real time, so you can see your shot and what it would look like. And, we'll do a refined key later, of course, but then you can time code sync your Unreal Engine camera track with your real life camera footage. You can gen lock it, so your frames are getting fired at the same time in both Unreal Engine and the camera, and you can drop in this photo scan. So rather than having to just, shoot on a green screen and then drop it in Cinema 4D later, we have it right here in real time and it's done. And then you can render it all basically in real time. Like, imagine filming with your friends on a green screen. Every time you hit record, the virtual camera starts recording its positional data as well. At the end of the day, you just hit go and every single shot just gets rendered out. It takes like half an hour because it's all real time, in Unreal Engine. There's no long render queues. And then the next day you pop open like DaVinci Resolve and you just do a timecode sync. And so every single shot you have just has a second layer, which is the background. So you can just pull a key and boom, you're done. Like instant tracking, instant green screen, beautiful. Instant fully lit 3D models. So that's what we're doing now. And that's what Sam's working on right now for Son of a Dungeon.
Nice.
So it's this huge paradigm shift in a process that previously would take us like back in 9th grade. Sam and I made an 8-minute long video. It was all shot on a green screen. It took us the entire year to do. And now we can do that in a day. Theoretically, we're not quite there yet. We haven't quite actually started doing it, but we're very close. All the experimentation and building of the tools is nearly complete. So, that's what I'm super excited about that, and that's what that's what this promise of taking this new technology and kind of bending it to your will entails, and then also not worrying about being perfect. Maybe the tracking isn't quite perfect. Maybe the frames haven't perfectly synced up. But as long as you're not going crazy and analyzing every pixel, you won't notice. So it's it's not about being perfect. It's not about every single shot being perfectly photoreal. It's not about every hair being perfectly keyed on my head. It's about being able to just do it and go this is pretty sweet. Finish the project. Do the next one. Tell your stories.
Yeah, do the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And every time I play around with a new technology or something like that, it's always, how does this apply? And thankfully, being with Actor VFX, I do have some freedom to just play around and innovate and brainstorm with stuff I probably would never otherwise interface with.
Yeah.
But I can always tie that back to, how does this help either us with the way that we create new products, the approaches we take for building rigs or delivering files to our users, all the way up to, is this a new technology that we can implement so that our users or visual effects artists can have better experiences or save time or be able to make better things faster. And so I think that's a lot of the same mindset that we've kind of shared through that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys offer a huge necessary step to the process of creating. You know, it's a very similar thing that's happening with like the Unreal Engine store, you know, where it's like, okay, I don't want to have to model every single thing for my environment. I don't have to model every character. Like, there's a bunch of other artists, there's thousands of artists out there that are better at this than I am. And now we live in a world where they can make these models and just put them up for sale. Then I can grab these and put them into my thing and just use these to help me tell a story. You know, we've connected all these different talented people together to basically create virtual crews, you know, that are very flexible and fluid to help provide whatever any artist needs to do their thing. You know, so it's like you guys are going out there and you're doing, you know, amazing pyrotechnics or any other, like, you know, kind of elements you can think of, because not every kid can go out there and make explosions happen in their backyard and film it.
Nor should
they. And nor do they have like the, you know, the kind of cameras that are getting you like, I totally did that too, actually. But, you know, at least, you know, we weren't recording it on a Red in like 8K. We didn't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're
professionals now.
You know, so we're at a point where a lot of people can enable other people's creativity through their creativity. And that's amazing that's happening. You know, it's even like, you know, like the technology I was talking about with Sam coming up with like the camera tracking and the green screen, like So Crispy Media, like those guys helped us, you know, figure out a couple, you know, which check boxes to check and which steps to think about and which problems they, you know, they encountered that we'll have to encounter and that kind of stuff. You know, there's so much sharing that's happening that enables people to go out and make things quicker and easier and just, you know, make their art faster. That's a great spot to be in. But it's definitely, that's a new world. That's a world that, like, when a company makes its money off of like exclusive content, they don't necessarily want that to happen, you know, like, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of individuals in those companies who do want that to happen. But it's great seeing this kind of democratization process happen, and then seeing industries pop up around it. A lot of it, which is self-made industry, you know, like you guys with Action VFX, like making your own business to enable this to happen. Like, it's Action VFX isn't like a derivative of like, you know, AT&T, you know, or Disney to make it happen, right? Which is awesome that we live in a world where we're all independent enough that we can support each other and, you know, create these opportunities for each other.
Kind of, you've already talked a little bit about kind of some of the upcoming projects you have. Is there anything else you want to mention, maybe that's coming up, or...
Stuff's always coming up.
Every week, exciting projects.
Every week's a fun, exciting project, man. Like, I used to like have like, you know, things to say about that, you know, when asked it. But at this point, it's like, oh man, every week's crazy. Like, if I don't have a cool, exciting project to do next week, and I'll come up with one to do. But like,
nice.
Yeah, man, it's all cool. I'm like, in terms of like, so yeah, I can't really speak to any specific project outside of, you know, Local Zero and Son of a Dungeon, which is all just a derivative of just CorridorDigital.com. Like, CorridorDigital.com is super exciting, but so is the stuff we're doing on Corridor Crew. Like, I'm just excited to come in every week to the studio and explore whatever it is we're exploring and make whatever it is we're making. I'm excited to write more pieces. I'm excited to do some more filmmaking now the pandemic's kind of coming to a close a little bit. Yeah, I'm excited to see what other people are doing. I'm excited to see, you know, where Epic Games takes Unreal Engine 5. I'm excited to see the next pack of footage that you guys release. Like, just everybody's making cool stuff, and it's just fun to watch it all happen.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
For sure means a lot. And so where can people find you? Obviously, Corridor has all of their own, corridor.com. I'll put some links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, CorridorDigital.com.
But what about you personally?
Me personally, people can follow me on Instagram, I guess, at Niko Dig. It was supposed to be like Niko Digital, but somebody else already got that, so it's just Niko Dig. But, you know, like, even then, like, I don't really self-promote that much. Like, you know, I'll just post a cool picture if I take one once in a while. So people can find me on Corridor Crew. There you go. And then CorridorDigital.com. Just, like, that's where I make my stuff. That's where I make my art. So go check it out there, I guess. But arguably, if they're listening to this podcast, they probably know that.
Yeah. For sure. Well, Niko, thank you so much, man. It's been great catching up with you. Hopefully now that pandemic is behind us, hopefully we'll see you in Las Vegas again, Pinball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Dude, I can't... What's the game we played?
Like that
Ice Cold Beer.
Ice Cold Beer, yes.
Ice Cold Beer was a fun one. And then...
Dude, I can't wait for NAB.
That home run one.
NAB's going to be...
That home run one that Jake loves.
That analog baseball game. But, like, I think it's worth talking about NAB just real quick here. So the North American
do it.
Broadcasters convention or whatever, which initially started out as like a radio tower
Yeah.
like convention for like TV people and radio people, which is funny because there's still a hall just dedicated to like the latest in radio tower technology, and you walk through there like this is pretty cool, but like I don't know.
Every time I pass by, I'm like, yeah, I'm in the wrong spot.
Yeah, because you have, like,
where's the Maxon booth?
You have like the Canon booth, the DJI booth. It's like, oh, the new drone. It's like it's super consumer oriented. This other one's like, you can get your premier rental space on our new towers going up on these mountain peaks, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's probably super important for someone.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, some backbones of our industry right here. But the last NEB we were at before the pandemic, knocked out the 2021. I remember we were hanging out with people, like none of his NFT stuff had popped off yet.
Mm-hmm.
We were hanging out with some of the guys from Maxon, Otoy, of course Action VFX, the guys from FX Home, and it's just like such a cool like get together, and we all had our YouTube channels and the stuff we were making, and like every once in a while another like fellow YouTuber or somebody who's into the stuff would pop by like, hey, I like your stuff, oh cool, thank you. And like since then, things like VFX Artist React have popped off, like people's NFTs have popped off.
Yeah.
Like, but we didn't have another NAB since then. So
Oh, no.
when NAB had, and the NAB this spring was also canceled, and theoretically is bumped to the fall. So we'll see what happens here. But I am very curious as to what NAB is going to be like, because it's basically been 2 years now since the last one. We've missed 2 NABs. Like DaVinci Resolve is such a bigger player now in the world of like editing and color grading and stuff. Like, what's it going to be like walking through those doors?
yeah, seriously.
It's going to be pretty
like,
fascinating.
Is Epic going to have a presence there now that they're in more of the filmmaking space? Like, I think there's a lot of really good things for sure, but the pandemic has forced the hand of a lot of things just changing, and like that's what time does anyway. But when you add the X factor of a pandemic and people working remotely and trying to be more creative to solve different solutions that we're all presented with at the same time, like I think that forces the innovation to happen.
Definitely.
Which is great.
And the world's kind of pushed a lot of the people that the stuff that's been done at NAB into like the spotlight for mass audiences, and that's not how it's been for the past decade. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see how it's gonna sculpt the entire experience. So, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. 2022 probably, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see.
Las Vegas Pinball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
We're there.
It'll be a good time.
Niko, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Ask an Artist.
You bet, Luke. Thanks for having me.
We'll definitely have to do it again, man.
Yeah, I'm down. Anytime.
Sweet.
All right.
All
So long,
right.
everybody.
Adios.